My name is Ashley Dellenback, and today I'm going to be giving a speech on Martin Luther King Jr. entitled, I Had a Dream. We all know that Martin Luther King was a huge civil rights activist. We also know that he was a big advocate for taking peaceful approaches to these kinds of things. Martin Luther King also won the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts towards the equality of men. The biggest part of history that King is known for is his civil rights movements. Going back to the fact that King was a huge civil rights activist, growing up, it wouldn't be long before King would fulfill his destiny and become one of the most influential people of our time. Not only was he an advocate of African American rights, but he was also a huge advocate of equality of all men. According to Bass, King was someone who wanted to see a social change. He played a central role in transforming Black self-awareness, self-confidence, and self-respect. Roger Brunn states that with the gifts of dynamic oratory, energy, imagination, and a sense of mission, King led marches and demonstrations and boycotts across the South. King's methods were extremely effective, and people took extreme notice of this. He was elected the president of the Montgomery Improvement Association. King was also the one who came up with the Montgomery bus boycott idea. He was a preacher, and he stood in front of his congregation one day and asked them not to ride the buses. He was stunned the next day to find out how many were following his request. The number of participants was numerous. He also joined with others and organized the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedoms in April of 1963. While King worked passionately towards civil rights goals, he also preached the importance of peaceful activism. Jay Stevenson states that King is remembered for his dedicated, nonviolent struggle to end segregation in America, and has come to represent the ideal of a just and peaceful American society for all races. When Rosa Parks was arrested, King was the one who urged everyone to react calmly to the situation and not take out violent tempers. From there, he came up with the Montgomery bus boycott idea. Stevenson also states that Martin Luther King's birthday is celebrated as a national holiday, and he is recognized all over the world as a symbol of nonviolent activism for the cause of racial justice. King's main concern was civil rights, and he also always wanted to have an alternative method that people could turn to instead of violence. Margot Henriksen said that King demonstrated how effectively Christian activism was marshaled for the forces of moral and political change in America. King's efforts definitely didn't go unnoticed. In 1964, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He was only 35 at the time, making him the youngest man to win this. He was still incredibly humble even after he won this huge award. King stated in one of his own speeches, "If MLK King had never been born, this movement would have taken place. I just happened to be here. You know, there comes a time when time itself is ready for a change. That time has come to Montgomery, and I had nothing to do with it." Martin Luther King was a man of strong ethics and believed that everyone should be treated equally. In closing, I quote Ronald Miller, "Martin Luther King is a name that today recalls a spiritual colossus who parted the Red Sea of racism and hatred single-handedly, humbled America, and set an example for the world that paved equality of all races."